Have you ever felt that gnawing sense of dissatisfaction with life? You know, that feeling that comes when it's quiet and, maybe it's before you go to sleep or there's a moment between you doing things and that feeling comes of existential dissatisfaction, right? That existential crisis. For me, this feeling, right, would just show up at random times and I really didn't know what to do with it. For the longest time in my life, I just either try to shove it down or distract myself, try to talk to somebody, pull out a book, open my phone, right? Anything. That was what I did. But with Vipassana meditation, I began to understand that this existential dread is actually a fundamental part of being human, right? It's always there and it's lurking in the background. And when it does surface, there's this feeling of discontent. And what I realized was that this is a signal, right? This is a reminder that we are spiritually starving and that we need to feed ourselves spiritually, right? And we have to address it so that we can live a good life. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Vipassana, let me briefly explain, right? Vipassana is an ancient meditation wisdom, and it translates to see things as they are, right? To see reality as it is. And you are observing sensations in the body which reflect what's happening mentally and physically, right? And this is really important because in Vipassana, you're observing these sensations which are life itself, right? It's life. It's not life in the sense of, what are my thoughts and my emotions about this thing? And here's my job. And here's all these like external things, right? It's the actual life force that's here, right? When you die, your work is still going to be there. Your friends, family, they're all still going to be there, but something is going to be gone, right? And that's something, that's the life itself. And so how does Vipassana help with this, right? Stick with me and you'll find out. Right? So at first I didn't even realize that this was more than just an occasional feeling, right? I just thought it had no solution. I thought it was just something that you had to accept. That feeling of emptiness, when you started to think about the deeper questions about life. And maybe, you follow a religion. And when that feeling comes up, perhaps you just remind yourself of, your religion and your beliefs. But I always thought the feeling was just a part of it. But what I've become to really understand is there are certain things that our mind and our spirit needs. And that feeling is a signal from our deeper self that we are hungry, that we are lacking something. And Vipassana really feeds this, right? It really feeds this. And I think for many years now, since I've been practicing Vipassana consistently, I have not really felt this, right? And so how does Vipassana, right, do this? How does sitting still and observing sensations, feed you spiritually, right? So the most important thing is to understand that the sensations that you're observing, represent life, the real life that I'm talking about. And the wisdom comes from building this relationship and observing the actual life process as it's unfolding, right? Not your mental stories, not your feelings about things, which are all very important, I will say, but observing the real actual life process happening. Seeing this relationship, building this relationship, understanding the patterns, understanding the structure, the infrastructure of your makeup, right, of your mind and body, which Vipassana allows you to witness, right? Really feeds this, right? And it changes your understanding of life, right? Whatever you thought life was. And for many people that don't meditate or have a spiritual practice, like I'm saying, life is just the circumstances of your life, the places you work, the interactions that you have, all these things that you do. But paying attention to the actual life process makes certain things really clear, right? And one of those things that in the way that Vipassana is taught by Goenka is very much stressed is this idea of impermanence, or not an idea because it is a reality. He was always saying anicca, anicca, impermanence. Everything is impermanent. And where does this come from? Right? Through observing the sensations, I get to actually experience a very fundamental thing about life, which once I say it, you'll be like, well, duh. I mean, that's just how things are. But to experientially understand it is the deeper, harder part. And what is that? We exist in time, right? It's a very simple, well, of course we exist in time, right? Time is flowing. And there's like moments followed by moments. And this movement, this flow of time from the past to the future is the way that we experience it. And not to get all metaphysical and say, is time a fundamental aspect of the universe? Is it just our mental creation? Don't care. I'm not talking about philosophy right now, but the way that we experience our life is moments followed by moments, and in this flow. So there is distinction between each moment. It's kind of hard to observe because there's this sense of being here, being in the present, as if it's a continuous single moment, right? And I hear a lot about spiritual people saying, well, you got to be in the present, you got to be in the present. Well, you're always in the present. The only thing that's changing is the energetic makeup of your mind and body, right? It's like, just because you're thinking about something does not mean you're not present. It just means who you are has oriented itself in such a way that these thoughts are currently present. Even if it's about the future or the past, you're still in the present. So the present has an untrained mind sees it as a continuous single thing that is just here, right? We're in it. But as you observe the sensations in your body and you get to very subtle, like your mind gets very sharp as you continue to practice Vipassana, and you start to witness very minute changes, arisings and passings away. And basically what that means is, right, if you can think of the flow of time as having, let's say, a certain speed, right? I'm just making numbers up. Time is flowing at 100 moments a second or 50 moments a second. And a moment is something that you experience, right? 1,000, 2, 1,000. How many moments passed in that 1 second? You can put any number you want to it, but it's multiple moments passing in that second. So now we have this rate that time is flowing. And then on top of it, right, is the arising and falling away of thoughts, right? One thought could last 10 seconds. Sometimes you might roll in a thought for hours, right? It doesn't matter. But they start at a certain point, and then they last for however long they last, and then they eventually pass away, replaced with a different thought, with a different experience, a different emotion. You get the idea. So tapping into this and really understanding this breakup, right, is really hard to do when you don't practice Vipassana and you're not paying attention to impermanence. You're not paying attention to change, right? You're not paying attention to the most fundamental change happening within you, which again is on that moment to moment speed of time flowing. Now, it sounds like it's getting a little complicated, but basically understanding the way that moments are followed by other moments. Moments begin, moments end, and then another one begins, another one ends, and this influences the next one. This is the kind of wisdom, right? This is the kind of spiritual understanding and wisdom that, our subconscious is seeking, right? It's the kind of, we're always aware and observing this reality, but we need to understand it through an experiential perspective. And that's what Vipassana allows. So really understanding this gives you many wisdoms on how to live, right? The reason why you don't want to have too much attachment to anything is because the flow of time is unstoppable, right? The things starting and things ending is unstoppable, right? This video started and it will end, right? You can rewatch it, but it's going to end again. You're born, You're going to live for a bit and you're going to pass away, right? So from big scale of your whole life to each individual thing happening, it is all going to end. So when you over attach yourself and you say, well, I don't want that thing to end, right? I like it ended, but I don't want it to end. And I am going to like invest a lot of energy into telling myself, oh, it's so horrible that it ended. And, you know, start having these spiraling thoughts of feeling sorry for yourself and continuing your misery instead of recognizing, hey, this was a desired thing that I, you know, had for some time. And then its time has come to end. And now I move on gracefully, right? So this attachment is to resist this fundamental reality of the movement of time, the movement of experience, and the arising and passing away of everything within the field of time, right? Because everything that begins at time X must end at time Y. You know, whatever distance between X and Y might be, right? Like if you're thinking about a black hole, trillions of years, you're thinking about certain subatomic particles that just briefly come in for split seconds, quarter, you know, like one trillionth of a second, however small it is, and then disappears, right? You've got a huge range of the distance that something can exist within time, but everything must end. So unintentionally, when we have this false belief that there's this continuous flow and that I am a continuous being, right? The person I was last year is the same person I am now. We're resisting this fundamental reality that shapes and gives rise to who we are. And so Vipassana, right? By observing the sensations, by observing the arising and passing away of these neutral sensations in our bodies, right? It's not a thought, it's not an emotion where my interests and my desires really go into it, right? Like there's good things I am emotionally and mentally invested in making happen or happening to me. Yet when I, you know, feel my arm, like it's a more neutral stance. So being able to observe objectively these sensations and understanding how these sensations, you know, first it's huge sensations, you know, you feel tingling that lasts, you know, seconds or minutes, and then as you go deeper and deeper, you see and experience and witness sensations that arise and pass away, perhaps, you know, getting closer and closer to the rate at which time itself is actually flowing, right? And the closer you can get to observing that rate through observing the sensations, through observing the reality of the sensations and the reality of the universe, the deeper that you go. So and you have to live in alignment with this truth, right? It's time. You cannot not experience time. There's no way for you to say, well, time, I don't want you to be flowing. I don't want you to be moving forward. You know, you might philosophically and hypothetically be like, oh, what if time moved backwards? Or what if time, you know, as a philosophical exercise, you can do that. But as a real thing, you cannot say anything to time because time just does its thing, right? It's a real thing about it. So when you don't understand and experience, that's the most important thing. When you don't experience the reality of what is happening within you to give rise to the life that you are, right? This existential dread comes up, right? It's almost like a curiosity, right? It's the feeling itself is almost like what, it's a curious feeling of what is there, like, or what is this, or what's happening, right? And there's a sense of not knowing, or there's a sense of discomfort of, I don't know the answer, but I don't even know what's here, right? And so Vipassana is a way to study that, to study what is this? Like, what is going on? What is this life process, right? And again, not what is this life process from a sense of, oh, what do I need to do in the future? Like this, the social script is, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you got kids, you can just work forever, you retire. There's like that script of what needs to happen or what should happen. And you might say, well, with this script, I don't really want to do this job. I want to do this job where I'm going to be myself. Self-employed. It's not really about this, right? It's not really about what you do and how your life plays out, but observing what the actual life is, right? Like observing this thing. And when you do that, right, the feeling of what is life, you are directly answering that. And so how can the existential dread of and there's many parts to the existential dread, right? But one of them is like, what's going on? Like, what is life? You are observing and answering that question for yourself. And so that part of the existential dread goes down. And now that's not to say that, oh, you just do Vipassana for a little bit and you know exactly what life is all the time and you are good. No, it's not that. But it does mean that you are doing something that is getting you closer and closer to the truth, that you are observing the nature of reality within yourself, which is what Vipassana literally is all about, is what is this reality? And how can I live in alignment with it? So one of the most important lessons in Vipassana is that anicca, that impermanence, that field of time in which things arise and pass away. Now, the other part that really treats this, existential dread, another large part of it is, who created this? What's going on here? Is there, like as religion teaches us, there are certain things you got to do to get rewarded. Like, is there that or is there nothing? Like, what is my role in this? Like, what is my responsibility here? As I'm alive, for maybe rewards, maybe not rewards. And what Vipassana teaches me about this, right? As I'm just observing the sensations, I'm observing and I'm, going from head to toe to head. And Goenka talks about this too, right? Is this idea of non-self, right? Anatta, I think. I don't remember the exact word, but it's the idea of non-self. And I was always, brushed it off as a thing like reincarnation or something where I'm like, well, yeah, sure, whatever. I like the practice. It's given me benefits. Meditating improves my life. So I'm going to keep doing it. But as I've been practicing, right, I've come to really understand what this non-self means. And what I found that it means is I am not the center of the universe, right? Because in my mind, in an untrained mind, it seems very obvious that, hey, I'm the center of things. I am all important and, it's my life. Look at all these feelings. Look at all these things that are happening within me. And there's this solidified sense of self. And things are happening to this solidified sense of self and I'm the center of it all, right? Observing Vipassana, right? There was like one moment where I'm observing the sensations. And a thought just popped into my head, right? And it was, what am I doing right now, right? What is actually happening right now? And I was not trying to answer with my thoughts, but I was trying to experience the answer of like, what is actually happening when I appear, right? Like the idea of I exists in my head, right? Behind my eyes, a little bit above. Anyway, that observing, let's say, a sensation on my arm, right? I'm like, eyes closed, I'm observing, like, what is actually going on? And from an ego perspective, I, up here, am observing this, right? This is the main event. And this is, just the thing that I am experiencing, an insignificant, maybe significant thing. But as I was experiencing and pondering this, right, I was following the structure of my mind, and it goes down, and it's basically, I'll save you I'll just tell you what I found was really the sensation of and what the sensation represents, which is the essence of my life and the biochemical, whatever is happening to give me life, is actually what's producing my mind. And then from that production, I am observing, right? So which one is the root? And obviously, the body is the root, right? The body gives rise to the mind, which gives rise to consciousness and awareness, which is then observing the body. And this just clicked something for me, right? I am not the center of the universe. I am not the root of what's happening. I am a byproduct of a process that's happening. And so like a different part of my mind was like, well, when I'm really observing these sensations in my body, what is my body, right? These are atoms that have come together, fused with the intelligence of the DNA to have certain functionalities. And it is producing this, right? And it's like, well, what are the atoms? Like, what rules are the atoms following? And the atoms are following the laws of physics, the universal laws. And this process, right, this universal process of matter that is happening has somehow given rise to me. And so this shifted to, whoa, that process is the main event, right? The main event, the main important thing that's happening is the universe, right? Or reality. Reality itself happening is the main event, is the most important event. I would not exist without the universe happening, right? Not to get philosophical or religious with, souls and maybe there's God realm or heaven or what, I'm not going into any of that, but just saying without this universe, without this reality existing as it does and doing what it's doing, I wouldn't be here. And so there's this shift from I am the center of the universe and I'm like super important and I got this big ego that thinks everything is about me. By observing these sensations and doing Vipassana, I am observing, right, this deeper process of actually what's happening and of actually what's important and what my place is, right? My place is this, identified thing in my mind that exists. That sense of self gets diminished, at least the importance given to it. And then even pondering that idea of what is this feeling of I that I relate to myself and is it the same? It's not, because it exists within time, right? This sense of self, collection of feelings, self-esteem, confidence, characteristics, traits, all of these things, memories that I associate with myself, right? The way I interact and do action, my intentions, there's all these mental things. And then there's that feeling of just, existing and being this continuous thing that's moving through life. Through observing deeper and deeper levels of impermanence and like time, the field of time, I started to notice that even my mind, even my sense of self is changing, right? And if I say, hey, the beliefs, the characteristics and the qualities that you had 10, 20 years ago are not the same qualities, beliefs, characteristics that you have now, well, it's obvious, right? You changed, you've grown, your body probably looks different, your habits probably look different, your values probably look different or more refined, however you want to, say it. And that change is hard to see in the moment. It's easy to see, 20 years ago, I was 10 years old and my body was way different. I was very ignorant. I didn't know a lot of things, right? What 10-year-old does know a lot of things. But to experience it moment to moment is what causes your sense of ego to go down and to really understand that sense of self is just a feeling. Like it's not something that is eternally existing, unchanged. It is just like an ongoing process. And there isn't like, you know, solidified thing that is, you know, what you think it is. And so those are two important things. What is life? And what's my role in it? Right? Those are like two pillars of existential dread. And this is how Vipassana has helped me, you know, by practicing every single day, by really exploring. I've come to tackle these questions from an experiential basis, right? And I've really understood giving those thoughts an answer just from thoughts, you know, like, who am I? If I'm just answering it with, well, my name is X, I do this, these are the characteristics I've got. You know, if that is the idea of what is the self, and if that is the answer, it always like falls short, and it won't solve the problem of making this feeling go away, because it'll still pop up later and you'll have to remind yourself. But through practice, through Vipassana, you're actually directly answering and exploring that question. And that question is much deeper than that answer of, oh, my name is this, I do this, this is how I behave, blah, 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 blah. It's a way deeper question than that. Those answers don't even come close to tapping what the source of that feeling actually is. So this is what I've noticed. And another thing, continuous practice is key. If I stop meditating, which I've had multiple cycles of, I'd go to a 10-day, meditate for a few months, fall off, months go by, life goes down, I dread, the existential dread returns, the depression returns, then I go again, it lasts for as long as I maintain it, and then it goes away. That is, the consistency is key, because it's like working out. You know, you go to the gym. If you have been working out consistently for some time, you're going to have benefits. You're going to gain things, muscles and all that good stuff. And when you stop, right? Let's say it's been a week, 2 weeks, your body is going to start losing all the benefits. 3 months after working out, or like 3 months of not working out, 8 months, 1 year, right? Practically all the benefits have gone. And so it's kind of like that, where it is something that you don't just do once. You have to maintain the consistency to maintain the benefits, to maintain the wisdom, and to truly answer those questions, right? To solve the existential dread and feed the hunger that it is signaling, you have to do it every single day, forever. Does that suck? Maybe, but it is how life is. You know, does it suck that you got to shower every day? You could say it sucks, or you could just say, hey, this is how life is and I got to shower every day. Maybe I'll skip a day, but I'll still be smelly, you know, or eating, right? You might fast for a little bit, but you just got to eat, right? You got to eat to survive. So basically it's just like that. Does it suck? Maybe, but it is how it is, and it doesn't matter what you think it sucks or doesn't suck. You just got to do. So I hope you get away with this knowing that Vipassana can solve existential dread and answer those deeper questions about life experientially. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care.